Hello, Chill Mama Kathy here for the my live baby sleep chat. This is the first time that I've done something like this, and this is already take two. The first one I only managed a few seconds in, and there wasn't enough connection, so it stopped. So it's a bit frustrating, and it's a bit annoying. And I was just explaining that my youngest one had decided to he wasn't going to play ball tonight, and wasn't going to go to sleep quickly, and wasn't going to needed an extra story, needed to go to the toilet, and he's still not asleep, and I've had to send his younger brother up to get tucked in with him. So hopefully they won't come and disturb us. They're under threat not to come and disturb me. So let's hope it works. So how this works is that you listen in. That you, if you have a question, then you just type it at the bottom, and I'll respond to it as I can. Do feel free to click on those likes and those loves as it goes along. Hello Holly, can you hear me? Can you tell me that you can hear me? Can you type hello or something, and then I'll know that you can hear me. Excuse me, it's a bit fuzzy. I think I need to clean my camera. Right, so sleep. Sleep, it can, as new parents, hi Holly, thank you, you can hear me, good. Right, I'm going to start now. So, as new parents, sleep can come to define our days. We understand why sleep is used as a form of torture. We'd sell our souls sometimes to know that we could have a block of 2 hours sleep. We also can understand why actually 60% of marriages break up in the 6 months after the birth of a new baby, because everybody's so tired. You play the I'm more tired than you game, and it can put a strain on everybody. And I've been there. I remember with my first particularly, she was not a great sleeper, and I remember at 6-7 months desperately talking with the health visitor, wanting some ideas of what to do, and she got a prescription for Phenergan, which is a sleeping medicine, which I couldn't actually give to my daughter, but I did controlled crying, and it was awful, and it worked for a week, until she started teething and got a cold, and so I know, I understand. I'm not in judgment of anybody who goes, that's what I had to do, because I know. However, in the meantime, I've had another 4 babies, and done a lot more reading and some training, and I've come to see that the prevailing attitude and advice about baby sleep actually doesn't help us at all, because it's in direct conflict with the needs of the babies, with the baby's biological development. So whatever, that sets us up to fail, because whatever we try and do, it might work for a while, but it's not going to work for long, because it's just there's this conflict, because we're working against what our babies need. So this little short talk, it's only half an hour. I'm going to see how this goes, and if you like it, then at the end you can let me know whether you'd like to have more of these sessions, or maybe as webinar chat type things, like a webinar course rather than these chats. So I have written some aims and objectives though. So I'm really hoping by the end of this chat that you'll have, the aim is to give you a better understanding of what's normal for babies. You'll get some facts about normal baby sleep and cycles and patterns and timings. You're going to find out why actually it's really important that babies wake up in the night. And we're going to discuss 5 ways in which you can increase everybody's sleep. And perhaps at the end we're going to look at having your own unwritten rules that are more helpful than the current ones prevailing in society. Because you know the ones. What have we got? I bet you could have had some. If you can think of an unwritten rule, type it at the bottom. Something like, a good baby is one that sleeps. People say, is your baby good? And what they mean, or even, are you good for mummy, baby? And what they mean is, does your baby sleep? Does your baby enable you to sleep and not be demanding? Because a good baby is quiet and not demanding. Another unwritten rule is that babies need to learn to self-settle. Gosh, don't we feel that a weight on our shoulders? Have you got your baby to self-settle yet? Another one is a baby that wakes a lot is manipulating you, because they now know that you'll come and pick them up, so they'll keep doing it to make sure you keep coming and picking them up. I had this one from a GP with my first baby, that babies don't need feeding in the night after X number of months. I think it was 7 or 8, which a load of tosh. If you pick up your baby, you're making a rod for your own back. Or if you have your baby in bed with you, you're making a rod for your own back. Because we all know that 14-year-olds still sleep with their mothers and fathers who've done co-sleeping. These are all hangovers really from the Victorian age. Oh, thank you, Holly. Yes, give baby formula and they will sleep through. Or give them some cereal, baby cereal in the evening, and that will help them sleep. And we're going to look at those too in a minute when we look at the facts about baby sleep. The Victorians, one of their phrases was better children should be seen and not heard. And that goes along with that good baby, the baby that is no trouble and doesn't make a noise and isn't demanding. There's also the spoil the rod and to spare the rod to spoil the child, is a bit like, that's about, you shouldn't go to your baby too frequently. And a lot of these, we look at sleep, it's the problem, the baby's behaviour is the problem. So when people talk about their babies, problems with their baby's sleep, it's to do with their baby's sleep. And we all know that if your partner's got to go up to work, you're back to work. You've got toddlers, you've got your mother or mother-in-law you need to look after, a dog to walk, a house to look after, and all these things that you think, I could really need sleep. And I can tell you, we have quite high expectations of how mothers keep their houses these days, and that's a pressure. Or there's pressure about getting back and keeping, getting in your genes. Also, these are more about the baby not impinging on your life, aren't they? Now, for some parents, it's a big problem. For some parents, it's not actually that much of a problem, and they quite like the cuddle at 2 o'clock in the morning. But they still feel that it's wrong somehow, that everybody else's babies are sleeping through the night, and so their baby should be sleeping through the night, and that it's a problem that their baby is awake at 2 and is awake for an hour, or it's a problem that their baby is waking from 4:30 till 7, on and off, on and off. And this is where the crux of the matter is, because babies haven't read the book. Babies don't know that they're meant to sleep through from 3 months. Babies don't know that they're responsible for the well-being of their parents the next day. Babies are literally just responding to their biological needs and to their development and to some extent their environment. And this puts it in conflict. So the baby's needs are to be fed, to feel their parents close, to wake frequently. That's normal. But a lot of solutions to baby sleep is about behaviour modification. And this is where the conflict comes again, because you're trying to get babies to do something they can't do. And that's where we're going to come on and we talk about the facts about baby sleep. One thing I'm going to say now, this is the crux of it all, is that all human babies are born immature when compared to other mammals. With other mammals, all other mammals, babies can move within hours or days of being born. They can crawl or they can walk. And if you can move, then you can get to safety and you can get to food. And they are fundamental to survival. If human babies were born at the same level of development as other if human babies were born at the same level as other development as other mammals, we'd be pregnant for another 9 to 12 months. So our babies are born premature, so that means that they, partly because of how our pelvis is, partly because of the size of our brains and the size of our heads and the combination of those things. So babies are very dependent on us, but they can't cling on to our fur as we move about. They are so they are very reliant on us being really near them. And if we are not near them, that's very scary for them, because they are not able to move away from danger and they're not able to get to food. And babies don't have a concept of time. Time is controlled by the cerebral cortex, and this bit of the baby's brain is not very developed at all. There's lots of neurons in there, but they haven't had the connections. When a baby's born, their brain is 20% the size of an adult's. By the time that they are 2, the brain is 80% the size of an adult's. And all those connections are happening because of the experiences that you give them, and the eye contact and the repetition and the love and the touch, and all these things are really important for helping their brain grow, but it's not a lot there, so they're not able to know in terms of time how long it is going to be before you're coming back. Right, so we talked about babies are born immature, so that they have a need for being close to you because of sense of security and ability to get to food. So I'm going to do now 10 sleep facts. So the first sleep that I think you'll find helpful. The first sleep fact is that a baby's sleep cycle is different to an adult's. So an adult sleep cycle, that's a cycle going from, we go into deep sleep first, then we go into REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep, which is when we dream, and then we go into light sleep. And it takes us about an hour and a half to go through those 3 types of sleep, and then we go back into deep sleep again. For a baby under 1, the sleep cycle is only about 40 to 45 minutes long, and they only have two forms of sleep. Firstly, they have light sleep, and then they have, which is about 20 minutes, and then they have deep sleep, which is about 20 minutes. Which is why when you're cuddling, you fed your baby, you cuddled your baby, and they've gone to sleep. Hello, Lauren. And they've gone to sleep. If you put them down too soon, they wake up because they're in light sleep. So you want to hold on to your baby for about 20 minutes, quarter of an hour, 20 minutes before you put them down. Of course, if you hold them on too long and you've been holding them for 40 minutes, they'll have gone back into light sleep. So you need to stay there another little bit longer. It's why babies very commonly sleep in 2-hour blocks, because that's 3 lots of 40 minutes. So they do 3 sleep cycles and then wake up. So these are just worth remembering, because that might help you when you're dealing with your baby. Babies are biologically programmed to wake frequently between 4 and 6 in the morning. Now this is because the human female's circadian rhythm means that her prolactin levels are highest 5, 6 in the evening and 4, 5 in the morning. And prolactin is the breast milk hormone. So if a baby feeds frequently during that time, that helps the milk production for the next 24 hours. Now, the fact that babies wake frequently, it doesn't matter whether they're bottle fed or breastfed. It's an evolutionary thing that has developed over thousands of years, and they're just programmed to do it. So if somebody comes to me and says, oh, what do I do with my babies waking frequently around about 4 or 5 in the morning, I say, sorry, got to suck that one up. Nothing you can do about it. Thousands, millions of years of evolution have caused that. But it can be a really good time to think about bringing your baby into bed with you and having and feeding them, particularly if you're breastfeeding, feeding them lying down, and you can sort of doze. I'm going to talk a little bit about co-sleeping in a minute. And this is another one. If I asked you, when do you think that more than 50% of babies are sleeping through the night? And by sleeping through the night, I mean like a block of 5 hours, and between 10 and 5 hours or more. And a lot of people think it's about 3 months, maybe 6 months, but actually it's a year. 1 year. And that's only 50% of, just over 50% of babies. 30% of little ones are still waking frequently at the age of 2. So there isn't such a magical thing. And actually, out of all the people watching this video, I can bet there's quite a lot of adults that still wake frequently in the night. I do. We are one of the few countries that expect babies to be sleeping through the night before they're 1. And if babies are biologically, most of them will not be sleeping through the night till they're past 1, and yet we as parents feel that we should be getting them to sleep before they're 1, at like 3 months or 4 months or 6 months. You can see why there's a conflict between what babies are biologically going to do and our expectations, and the pressures on us as parents to conform to an imposed idea of what babies need rather than a reality. Of course, within that range of what babies do, there will be some babies who are sleeping through the night at 3, 6, 9 months, but the majority will not until they are past a year. Sleep regressions happen frequently. Sometimes they're called growth spurts, where the babies experience a period of high demand, where the babies start waking more, wanting to feed more, and it's like misnomer calling them growth spurts, because actually this period of high demand usually happens just before the growth spurt. So they're getting in the nutrients that are going to help them with the growth spurt. And of course there's a huge one around 16 weeks, which is when a lot of people then go, oh, my baby must need food. Because they were sleeping all right, and now they're waking up more frequently. It must be because they're hungry. And of course, milk is a far more nutritious substance to give to a baby who's hungry than baby rice or pureed carrots. And milk has got all the fats and proteins that the growing baby needs, and calories. Something Holly mentioned, bottle-fed babies. The truth is bottle-fed babies do not sleep more than breastfed babies. There is research that's looked into it. It may feel like everybody's giving their baby formula seems to be sleeping in, your baby seems to be up. What the research shows is that breastfed babies do wake more frequently, but they go back to sleep quicker. So you're less likely to be spending that time pacing up and down, trying to get your baby off to sleep. And that overall, there's not a huge amount of difference between the amount of sleep that babies and mothers get. The good thing in breast milk, there is stuff that helps both baby and mum get to sleep. I feel like I'm rushing through these because I'm aware I've only got half an hour, and perhaps I should have planned and advertised it for longer, but I also wasn't sure about talking for an hour or more than half an hour. So moving on, following on actually, so starting solids does not make your baby go to sleep or sleep longer. The research, there's been research. There is research to show that for some babies it will help them to sleep. For an equal number of babies it will make no difference at all, and for some babies it will make their sleep worse. So then again, by introducing solid food earlier, they're getting less of the milk, which is what they need. Rebecca, I'm going to come to that your question in a bit, and no miracles, no silver bullet, I'm afraid, but sometimes a bit of understanding. And we're going to talk about solutions in a minute. And here's something: babies who wake, particularly babies who wake in the first 6 months, are safe babies. Greater understanding of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, in the last few years. Again, going back to the fact that babies are born premature. One thing's that the fact that all human babies are born premature compared to other mammals. They're not very good at regulating their own temperature and their own breathing. And they've noticed that the babies can lose the rhythm of their breathing and actually stop breathing. Babies who wake frequently are protected against that. The waking triggers them to breathe again, and which is one of the reasons why breastfeeding is a highly protective factor against SIDS. It's also a reason why your baby is recommended to sleep in the same room as you for the first 6 months. It's not because so that you can hear your baby and respond to them quicker, which is what everybody usually thinks that's the reason why. The reason is so that your baby can hear you, and by hearing you snore, cough, roll over, breathe, these sounds can trigger the baby, wake the baby up enough to trigger them to keep breathing. Babies can't be manipulative. So I talked about the different parts. There's 3 main parts of the baby's brain. This bit to do with time. It's also to do with reason and the higher thinking skills. It's actually called the executive function. Happens in that part of the brain, which is all your planning and things. It ain't there for babies, so they can't be manipulative. They literally don't have that logic. They're here, which is physical, sensory and basic physical function, and they're here, which is emotion and the buildings of memory. So that's where they are. They are literally responding to what is in front of them. Now talking about brain development, one of the key things that your baby's brain needs to grow is oxytocin. And those of you who know me will have heard me talk about oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. It's released in labour. It makes the contractions longer, stronger and closer together. It's released in breastfeeding. It creates the letdown response. But it's also, we release it in everyday life. Hugs. We have oxytocin receptors on our chest and our neck, which is why we like hugs and snuggles in our neck. It's a bonding hormone. So we feel oxytocin when we're with our loved ones. Oxytocin is the fertilizer for the brain. If there isn't oxytocin, the neurons don't connect. So your baby needs lots of hugs and kisses and cuddles for those neurons to connect and the eye contact. When a baby is under stress, they release cortisol. And when there's cortisol, there's not oxytocin. And in fact, not only does that stop the brain growing, but too much cortisol in the brain can actually start severing the connections that have been made. And research has shown that where babies are left to cry themselves to sleep, they stop crying, but their levels of oxytocin remain high for at least another 2 hours. And so that's why you'd be really, these sleep training techniques that suggest no eye contact, that suggest don't talk to your baby, don't reassure, leave your baby to cry, are actually not helping your babies. Are you there? Oh gosh, it blipped out of connection. I thought I lost you then. The 10th sleep fact is that research has shown that parents are likely to overestimate and overreport how much sleep. Did I say it wrong, Tyas? So cortisol cuts the brain, and the cortisol level remains high when babies are left, if babies are left to cry themselves to sleep. Even when they stop crying, 2 hours afterwards, the cortisol levels are still high. I hope that's cleared that up. So fact number 10, parents over-report how much sleep they're getting. So when all your friends are telling you that their baby is sleeping through and they're sleeping wonderfully, they're probably over-exaggerating, because nobody wants... Oh, thank you. Yeah, I said levels of oxytocin remain high for 2 hours. I meant levels of cortisol. Thank you. Your baby sleeping is seen as a badge of being a good parent, and so nobody wants to say, oh god, my baby sleeps crap. They want to go, oh yeah, no, my baby, I did quite well. So don't worry about what other people say. You need to listen to your baby. And this is where you can see from talking about those sleep facts are already contradicting some of our cultural expectations around baby sleep, and actually quite harmful. And they're putting the needs of the parents for sleep above the basic needs of babies, or telling parents that they can get their babies to sleep more. So I'm really sorry, I am going to talk about how you're going to get your babies to sleep more, but it's not a magic bullet, but there are some things that might help. Somebody asked about 8 months, and we didn't talk. I talked very briefly about growth spurts, and there's also around 9-10 months that there is a period of separation anxiety. If you want any further information on any of this, then do let me know and give me your email, and I'm going to send an email out over the weekend that will have a lot of links that you'll find really helpful. And my email is kathy@chilledmama.co.uk. I'll repeat that at the end. So what does help? Well, there are 3 things that really help everybody have a better time with sleep. And the first one is proximity. Your baby has a need to be near you. So they have a need to be in your room, to be in your bed, to be on you during the day. Now, bed sharing is the biological norm, having your baby with you. Of course, the biological norm is not to live in a centrally heated house with double glazed windows and wall-to-wall carpeting, on soft beds, and so there are things that we do need to take into account. Oh, Chelsea's saying she missed most of it because Nuala woke up. Oh dear, you can listen to it all again. Right, but you can do bed sharing safely. I've just read all over here. I'll reach and get it. I will email this to people. I'll put it on my page. Co-Sleeping and SIDS, a guide for health professionals by UNICEF Baby Friendly. 90% of babies who died in co-sleeping situations died actually in hazardous situations that were largely preventable. So they died co-sleeping on a sofa or a chair, which is really, really dangerous. It is much, much safer to plan to bring your baby into bed with you in a planned, safe way than to fall asleep with them on a chair or a sofa, where there are more ways that they can get stuck between things and suffocate. Co-sleeping with parents who've been taking drugs, so that's not just illegal drugs but also over-the-counter drugs that make you sleepy, and smoking. So if either of you, either of you were smoke or smoked while you were pregnant, then that has an effect, and so then co-sleeping isn't advisable. But there are still ways. Email me. I can't go into everything today. But if you're not smokers, if you've not had drinks or drugs that would make you sleepy, if your bed, when you're on your bed, that it's firm enough so that you don't create a dip that your baby can roll towards you, that you don't have any pets in the bed with you, that the baby can't fall between the bed and furniture or a wall, that your baby is not premature, this is like in the first few months, premature or very small or very sick, with a high temperature and things. So if there are those situations, then co-sleeping can be a really safe thing to do. But yeah, do it in a planned way. Ask me more about it, or ask your health visitor, because your health visitor should know this stuff. You should. Carrying your baby in a sling. Those of you who are sling mummies and daddies will know that your baby tends to sleep better in a sling, don't they? So, why not do it? Touch is really important. Because touch actually makes babies physically grow. Did you know that babies in the West are only touched for 24% of the day? Less than a quarter of their life are they in contact with another human being. And yet touch is vital for brain development and physical growth. Babies who are touched more grow better. And that's where baby massage is brilliant. And and baby wearing is brilliant. And you can do some of these things that help sleep, nighttime sleep, during the day, because by carrying your baby, by massaging them, by touch and by kisses, you're giving them a lot of reassurance and helping them be calm and cope with the day, which will then help them cope with the night. So proximity was number 1, emotions is number 2, and starts with your emotions. Babies copy, they're very, very aware of our emotions. It's how they learn to deal with the world, is by a technique they call mirroring. So they look at us and see how we're responding, and then they respond likewise. So if we are very stressed, our babies are going to be picking that up. So doing whatever you can. Now you're just going to say, well, I'm really stressed because I don't sleep. But there may be things that you can do, and we can talk about in a minute, that can help you cope with not having much sleep. The solution is not necessarily trying to get more sleep, get your baby to sleep longer. It's the other parts of your life that you can make a difference to, so that you have more energy to cope with the lack of sleep. Responding to your baby, how much you respond to your baby has been shown to lead to a better emotional and mental health for your baby. We don't often talk about mental health for babies, but this mental health for babies has a lifelong consequences. So responding to your baby, so that means at night, responding to them. They're crying, they're upset, you give them a cuddle, talk to them, reassure them. That's what you'd do. If I woke up having a nightmare, I would expect my partner to give me a hug and tell me it was all right. Also, we tend to do a lot with our babies, and they need time to wind down, and they need to see you winding down, because they're going to pick up on it. So spending some part of every day just lying back with your baby on you and relaxing, so they are picking up that all is right with the world. If you spend your whole day rush, then you're going to have a stressed out baby, because they don't know how to calm down, because you don't ever calm down with them. So you need to spend that time relaxing and letting them pick up that you can relax. So whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's a Sudoku on your phone or flicking through Facebook, but even better if you can listen to some relaxing music or do some meditation with your baby. Babies can, and they need that time to unwind in the evenings, particularly if there's a lot been going on during the day. Babies, everything is new for babies. Everything is new. Everything has to go in through here, all the sensory input, and it can become really overloading. And by the end of the day, they can just feel like, oh, I've got all these things. And so sometimes with a very overstimulated baby, they will crash out immediately after their bedtime bath for an hour and then be awake, because actually they were exhausted, but they were overtired, and they needed to have a bit of a sleep, and then they needed a bit of time where they could be calm and start processing. And you can help your baby to process what's happened in the day by making sure you've got time at the end of the day that is calm and quiet. You do baby massage, or you do something where you're talking to your baby about what's happened, sing nursery rhymes, things that help them to unwind, and then they're able to cope with it and start processing what's been happening. And during sleep is when we really process, and we start locking things away into memory, as we know, because if you've had a really busy day, then you could feel a bit wired at night, and you wake up going, oh yes, I remember that, and oh gosh, that happened. So it happens to babies. Equally understimulated. So on the other thing is to, if you feel like, try not to be out all the day, particularly with a young baby. Think about, is the telly on all the time, or the radio on all the time? Are there ways in which you can reduce the amount of stimulation during the day? Also looking out, obviously you don't, parents worry about understimulating their baby. One of the best ways you can do, and I do think it's great to go out during the day, go out and hang out with friends, because if you hang out with friends, it helps you be happy, helps your emotions, but it also helps the baby be stimulated, but not in a way that they feel comfortable. So in an environment where they feel comfortable, because they're used to going there, so it's not too many new things, but it also allows you to be happy and feel nourished, and energized for looking after, and loved for looking after them. So hanging out with friends, and doing nothing but sitting around and chatting all day is actually a really good way of looking after your baby. Being outside. We know that being outside is good for us and it's good for our babies. And sometimes a walk after dinner can be a really good thing. It helps babies unwind. And getting out every day, even if it's out in the garden, can be a really positive thing. With my children growing up, there's two things. If they're too much, they're overwired. I either put them in water or outside. And of course, sometimes in the summer month, you can do both. The other thing to think about is the senses, and thinking about the environment. Babies do respond through their senses. I'm not going to talk about too much about that now because I feel I've been talking for quite a long time. But thinking about what they smell, like your smell they like. Older siblings. Rob's asking about older siblings. I don't think you can do not a lot you can do about older siblings. But again, I think you have to work out what's going to work for you. And it works on different personalities as well. So it's really hard to say one thing or another. I think the main thing is to try and avoid stressing the whole family, really, if you can. So if it works to do it all the children together, then you do all the children together. And the children generally get a lot of benefit from being with their siblings. I think there's some research showing about heart rates getting in line and stuff like this. So generally siblings are good. One of the big things really is that we're not meant to do this alone. Going back to that being with friends, evolutionary wise, we're meant to do this in villages and in tribes. So that my number one recommendation for helping you get more sleep with your baby is to go out, find friends and hang out with them lots. Just going to talk about, a lot of parents do say, because I forget who it was who said about this 8-month-old. So I'm almost at the end now, and I'm going to do a little bit to think about the time between a baby being 6 months old and a year. If you think of some of the things that stop you sleeping, maybe starting a new job, learning new skills, maybe toothache, illness, all these things can help stop you sleeping and processing new things. If you then think about what happens to a baby between 6 months and a year, where they're likely to roll over, crawl, walk, or at least start walking, teeth, likely to get at least 4 teeth in that time, possibly start going to nursery because mum's going back to work or dad's going back to work, and suddenly I start talking, being able to wave, have a greater understanding of the world. It's a wonder really that they ever sleep through the night between 6 and 12 months, because of all these things that they've got to deal with. So I'm finishing up now. I think it might be nice to go away at the end of this and think about what are the unwritten rules that you would write for yourself. Maybe unwritten rule or affirmation, my baby hasn't read the book, that I'm doing the right thing for me and my baby, or something like that you can stick up somewhere and you can see and go, this is yes, just to remind yourself and keeping yourself on, keeping faith that you're doing right. The other thing is that you might be through a period where your sleeping is okay. Make a plan for those periods of high demand. Make a plan for when sleep isn't good, and stick it up on the fridge. Make sure you've got food in the freezer for those times, and share it with your partner so they know that when they come in, perhaps you have a red magnet, and when the red magnet goes on there, they know that this is not a good day, that you've got a plan where you are going to let it slide, and that's even more important when you've got more than one. I read somewhere I saw where they said, if you're not coping, then lower your standards. If you're still not coping, lower your standards more. And I hope that, and then think about what coping strategies that you can have. It may be that your baby is 9 months old, and it can seem weird to going back to having a sleep during the day, but maybe that's what you need to do. So go and have a sleep during the day. It may be that you've got friends, but this is where your tribe comes in, that you can help look after each other's children, cook each other dinner, somebody that you can just turn up to and go, here, take the baby, I just need a break, and they can hold the baby and get you some toast, and you can have a chat and go back and feel refreshed and carry on going. I'm at the end now. Sore throat coming up. I'm not even sure. Let me see what the time is. If you would like any more information, do get in touch. We'll send out emails over the weekend with a whole load of links and resources. I'm also, if you think this stuff is good, I could do it as a webinar course, maybe one lot of an hour in more detail, or even maybe 3 lots of half an hour, so with gaps in between and homework. If you'd like that sort of thing, let me know what you would like next. But if you would like me to send out emails to you, then send me a message on my page, or drop me an email to kathy@chilledmama.co.uk. For those of you who are local, in 3 weeks' time I am doing a baby sleep workshop, and we will go through all of this and a whole lot more, and we will be able to look at individual situations as well. So thank you very much. I really hope that was what you were wanting. I hope maybe it's changed some expectations and allowed you to spend this time enjoying your baby, and not doing things that actually are not going to work because your baby's not biologically programmed to do it. Okay, I love you all. I hope you go and sleep well. Go and do some relaxation, and calm yourselves down, and go and be very chilled mamas and papas with your lovely chilled bubbas. And here's my chilled bubba who didn't go to bed. Come and say hello. He didn't go to bed. Go give him a wave. He didn't go to sleep. All right. Bye then. I'll find out how to turn it off. Oh, there.